Hi, my name's Sarah Hudson. I'm a finance broker and money coach, and I'd like to welcome you to Let's Talk Money. Let's Talk Money is a series of interviews with successful women that I've met along my journey, and where I'd like to share stories about how we feel about money. So money's kind of a taboo subject in our society, and I want to debunk that and demystify it and get serious about sharing our stories about money. So let's get started. Welcome, Tasha. Welcome to Let's Talk Money. It's so pleased to have you here. I'm just going to give a little brief bio so our listeners and viewers know a little bit about you. I've known Tasha for quite a few years now.
Nearly a decade.
Yeah, I reckon so. Tasha is a mindset coach and a motivational speaker, as well as being the owner of Bloom Networking, which is a women's business networking group and educational hub. Tasha is also a wife and mother and lives in the southeastern suburbs of Melbourne. And I read on your LinkedIn profile, Tasha, that your favourite quote is "a smile is the shortest distance between two people," which I love. I think that's so lovely. And you are always smiling.
Can I tell you where that quote came from and why?
Yes, please do.
When I first met my husband, and we just met, and then a couple of times after we met each other again at where we went dancing, and he came up to me and he had that little quote on a scrap piece of paper and he put it in my hand.
Oh, how
I looked at it. Oh. So I thought that was very romantic.
Very romantic.
He won my heart with that.
Excuse me. So I'd like to start off our conversation, Tasha, with asking you, what is your best money story?
Oh, my best money story. Okay. My best money story really comes from my parents. My parents were migrants to Australia, which is not unusual for Australia. And they had grown up through the war years. And my grandfather had four children, 3 daughters and a son. And during the war, they were poor. It was very difficult times, and they didn't get an education. In fact, my mother only had 3 years of schooling because of the war. So my grandfather decided he needed to educate his children because he didn't want them to stay in poverty. And he made the brave decision to educate one of his daughters rather than his son, which was very unusual in those times.
Yep.
So my mother was the lucky recipient of that. And he sent her to, my family background's Greek, so he sent her to Athens from the village as a young girl who'd never been to a city, to a design school. And my mother became a dress designer. And so eventually when she came to Australia, she married my father. And they actually were pretty dominant in the fashion industry back in the 80s and 90s in Melbourne. They became clothing manufacturers. They employed heaps of women. And so my mother has always been a strong drive for me as an example, and my father, because he supported her. But I think that's just a brilliant money story that a father back in that generation would decide to, and he had to borrow the money, borrowed a lot of money to be able to educate one of his daughters, not a son.
What a great story. That's amazing. Yeah. And, what a great story for immigration as well, just to come to Australia and to build that business. So would you therefore consider that your parents were your great money role models? And do you have other money role models that you'd like to share?
My parents definitely were. They taught us about saving. They taught us about spending, but spending wisely. Yeah. I learned about business from them. I'm third generation business owner in my family. And, there's been lots of other examples as well, but they, of course, were the biggest one. They were really keen on making sure you paid your house off. You bought a house and you paid a house off. So that was a really big thing. So that's put them in good stead. And, even though they were in business, they had up and downs in business, which is normal, but that was a priority. So it's sort of a certain point in their life, they were out of debt, which put me in a position now. My husband and I don't have a mortgage. So I'm probably a good person to be talking about money because those things that I learned. And Sarah, as you know, I had you come over to my house with all our kids and some of their friends. They're all in their early 20s to get them focused on saving money and buying their house at this age. So that was instilled in me, and then I've passed that on to the next generation. So
yeah, great advice, you know, getting into the property market and having that security of housing. You know, we've spoken a little bit about that over our friendship over the few years, and, you know, that the statistics about homelessness among women. So, you know, getting in when you're young and looking forward to property is so important.
Well, that's right. You know, and a couple of them who spoke to you on the day were already, you know, had partners, but one of our daughters, our oldest one, she was looking at buying a house on her own. So we have one with a disability, and we're looking at getting her into a house. So, and she's only 18. And it may sound, look, anyone listening to this might go, oh, I can't afford a deposit, I can't. But don't believe the stories you tell yourself.
Yeah.
They're not true. The stories we tell ourselves about money, about business, about life, about our problems are usually our fears rather than based on love and certainty. And, you know, just go see Sarah. She'll get you a house. Even if she has to set you up on a money plan or whatever it is that you need. Because I know when, Sarah, you came to our house, you didn't say to any of them, you can go out and do it straight away. You said, over the next few months, you'll come back to me. And I know one of them's been contacting you over and over about things. But to set yourself up in, you know, it just, you don't see it in the early years.
You've got to have a plan.
That's right. But when you get to our age and you go, I don't have a mortgage. Hello, no car loans. Hello. Yeah, absolutely. So let me take you back to when you were a teenager, and I'm assuming that you had a part-time job when you were a teenager. I'm going to ask you, what was your first job? My first job, I worked at Sports Girl.
Ah, wonderful.
Which is in itself, that's unusual because my parents were in the fashion industry, and my parents wanted me to follow in their footsteps. My mother wanted me to be a dress designer like she was, and they wanted my brother and myself to be able to run the business and the family legacy. I hated the fashion industry. I tried working for them for a little bit. I just could not do it. My brother did it for like a decade. I just could not do it. They sent me to try to send me to fashion school, and I said, no, much to their disappointment. And I never did it.
But you worked in fashion.
But then when I went to try and get a job, they must have known through my answers when I went for the interview. Like I applied for a lot of jobs, and Sports Girl contacted me, obviously had looked at my minimal resume that my parents were in the fashion industry, and they interviewed me and employed me, and I went, oh, here I am. Didn't stay there long. It wasn't what I wanted to do in my life. So.
No. So, Tasha, if you had $1 million, how would you spend it?
Well, the word spend is the ultimate thing. I thought about this, and I wouldn't rush to spend it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen the statistics are pretty high. Like if people have not had money over a long period of time and then they inherit or they get money from somewhere, 95% of people lose it within 5 years.
Yes.
So if I had, $1 million come in that I could do whatever, I would probably sit on it for a little while to make some really good, strong decisions. I'd get some financial help. I'd make myself 100% responsible for that money as well, because everybody has ideas and opinions and people want to borrow and, whatever. And probably I would look at investing some of it. And it's important from a mindset perspective that we need to put money out as well as receive. You can't hoard it. Money needs to go out and work and be part of the cosmos or whatever.
The global network, financial markets.
Yeah. And so that's probably one thing I would do. I would just sit on it. I would look at what I would spend, but most of it, I would look at investing either in business, in property, I would definitely not invest in the stock market. And the reason is because I don't understand the stock market.
Yeah,
the people who understand it, yes, invest in there. But you'd have to be investing in something that you personally understand and feel passionate about. And I'd love to be able to help people, but I wouldn't help people from the actual capital. Anything that came from interest or off the top, that's what I would use for spending. So I would invest the money.
Make it work for you.
I would make it work, and then I would spend from whatever I make from it. So the $1 million never goes away. Hopefully it will keep increasing.
Sounds like a good plan to me.
Yeah. And then I'd come and see Sarah again. Maybe buy some more properties or something.
So if you had to start again with not with your whole life, but start again in your money journey, what advice would you give yourself?
Oh my goodness, what advice would I give myself? Probably I've sort of started again at the moment with COVID, because with COVID, I was running an event-based business that was in person, and I was running lots of events, mainly through Melbourne, but there were a few in interstate, in Queensland, the Gold Coast, just different places. And that took a big hit, obviously, when you're running live events. So like a lot of people, I had to sit down and say, well, what am I going to do now? So, of course, I went online with it, kept the model that I had, was doing that for the last 18 months. But 6 months ago, I thought, well, is this what I want to do forever? It's not the same. I didn't feel like it was the same. So I started to look at making changes. So the first thing I did was I decided I really always enjoyed the coaching and the online teaching, learning part of my business. So part of my business is I renamed a part of it and called it, instead of Bloom Networking, that's staying, but I've added Bloom Learning Hub. So that's changed a little bit. And in that hub, so what I'm doing now is I went and actually invested some money, invested in myself. So I'm doing a course from America at the moment. And the person I'm doing it with is Marianne Williamson, for anybody who knows who she is. Amazing, amazing woman. It's cost quite a bit of money, but in the end, what I'm learning is absolutely so valuable. It's changed my life and any of my clients that have it at the moment. It's creating miracles in their life. And so that's what I've done to actually educate myself again. I already had good clients, so I could have done it without that. But I thought, if I'm going to be in here long term and I want to be more online based and also create a business that's international, not just national Australian, that investment was really important. And the other thing that's become really important in that for me was that I took 100% responsibility for my business. I didn't blame COVID. I didn't blame the government for lockdowns. I didn't blame anybody. It didn't matter. It wasn't going to affect what I was doing. And, you know, as a result, I've added a zero to what I charge. So now the model, less work, more money for me.
Yeah. So I guess then in summary of that your advice would be to invest in yourself.
To invest in yourself.
Yeah.
Money that goes out to invest in yourself helps your personal life, but also does help your clients. And because I've run events for women for nearly 2 decades now, I've seen a lot about how women think, and everybody wants to help the world, which is great, but they don't always help themselves because they're not focused on making the money. And some are, but the majority really struggle with asking for money, which is really important. And so another thing is people have become so focused on social media. They'll spend hours on social media on their business every day, but they're not actually making the money to go with those hours. And so it's become really clear to me that we need to take responsibility for the money that comes in, the decisions that we make, about getting educated, letting go of social media. If you want to keep social media, fine, but actually do some stats on that to see how much money is it actually bringing in. If it's not, then go and get educated on. There are people who teach you how to make money, you know. So there's I could go on forever, as you can tell.
Look, the information you've shared has been really, really invaluable. And I agree with you. You know, if we focus on ourselves and our skill set and improving our skill set and asking the universe for money, it will come.
Yeah, and it does. What people, I suppose what we don't, I realise because I do it, that there is a formula with the universe that you can basically click your fingers and things will appear. It's just most people don't know what the formula is. And I've spent 2 decades studying that formula. And my current course that I'm doing at the moment has sped that up. So
that's fantastic. Fantastic advice. And I've got to make sure that when we post this video, we'll put your links in there, Tasha. So if anybody's interested in connecting with Tasha and learning more about what the formula is for making money, reach out to Tasha. She's got some fantastic knowledge. She's got decades of information and expertise in the money mindset field. So I really encourage you to connect on LinkedIn or connect on Facebook with Tasha. She's a great woman. So thank you so much for joining me today on Let's Talk Money, Tasha. I know it's just a tiny snapshot of your knowledge, but I wanted to keep it brief so that we get more people watching this series. And hopefully we'll catch up again in the near future and we can do some work together.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Tasha.